Hey guys, welcome to the Sports Note for Tuesday, July 11th, and we're going to get right into it here. This is a topic that I'm getting really sick of having to talk about on this channel anymore. And it's actually now back-to-back weeks that I've discussed this. But as we all know now, there was breaking news over the weekend that Pat Fitzgerald is out as the head coach of the Northwestern Wildcats, and the timing could not be any worse. The Wildcats were 1-11 in 2022. We're looking to kind of rebuild. Fitzgerald was at the helm for 17 years, compiled a career record of 110 and 101, including 10 bowl appearances, was 5-5 in those games. And the irony is that Fitzgerald had almost as many wins with 5 as the entire Northwestern program had bowl appearances before he got there in 2006, as the program only made 6 previous bowls. The Wildcats made 2 Big Ten championship games, getting basically boat raced in both of them. I want to say by Ohio State both times, but that's not the underlying aspect of the story here. There were reports that started to come out earlier in the weekend that with off-campus practices and spring practices and possibly a history going back a little ways, that Fitzgerald would kind of author the code red on freshman players who were not performing well. So poor performance tags, essentially, it was thought of, where upperclassmen would at times sexually abuse some of these players, from things like running through a row of sprinklers a la a car wash naked just to be able to get back to the showers, performing the center snap drill with a quarterback while naked, being dry humped by upperclassmen. Those are just some of the things that were reported over ESPN. Now, Fitzgerald was originally announced by the school having been suspended 2 weeks without pay on Saturday, and then Sunday the story took a new twist that the university was reconsidering that punishment. So there was the possibility that it could extend longer. Could it extend a couple of weeks, maybe even be suspended for a couple of games? There were also former players that did not want to identify themselves to ESPN in the stories that came out later in the day Sunday, as this was a story that just kept progressing, and that's why I did not cover this originally, and I'll get to that here in a moment. But calling for Fitzgerald to resign or be terminated by Northwestern University, and then there was the report that came out yesterday that the university decided to fire Fitzgerald 6 weeks before the start of the regular season. Again, absolute terrible timing, as the Wildcats had gone no more than 2 consecutive years, although it happened 3 times in Fitzgerald's tenure, of missing a bowl game, and they've actually missed bowl games in back-to-back years. So if the trend were to continue, they would have actually made a bowl game this year, which actually would have probably garnered Fitzgerald Coach of the Year honors after going 1-11 again last year. Although their schedule would have actually lined up for them to compete for a bowl. But there's something about the city of Chicago anymore that why can't their coaches of their teams just treat people as regular people and not be scumbags, apparently? We all know the issue with the Chicago Blackhawks with the Kyle Beach scenario, which I talked about on this very channel last week in the wake of them drafting Connor Bedard, in the Taylor Hall trade, as NHL free agency opened last weekend, today being the 11th, where there's still a lot of players out there not having been signed. And that actually resulted in Kyle Beach's career forever being altered. And then Joel Quenneville, the third all-time winningest coach in NHL history, was suspended indefinitely by the NHL, as was general manager and director of hockey operations and player personnel, not Scotty Bowman. I can't think of his name, but Scotty Bowman's son and I actually was just looking it over, but I won't take too much time kind of going into that for the moment here. But both of those gentlemen were removed essentially not only from the Blackhawks but removed from the NHL altogether. It's not like they've been completely stricken from the annals of history. Like some, like the WWE did in the wake of the Chris Benoit thing, and what I'm not trying to equate Chris Benoit to Pat Fitzgerald here, but there are a lot. There are the behavior is still reprehensible. For Fitzgerald to allegedly have kind of, I don't want to say turned a blind eye, but also maybe even given reported hand signals to allow something like this to occur. Granted, these were 18, 19-year-old young men, or some of which maybe even 17. They were of age at that point, but I couldn't be the only one that can't find a sliver of irony in the fact that this occurred at the same time that it was reported that Larry Nassar got stabbed multiple times while in a maximum security prison after he was after I want to say he was released at Gen Pop or something like that. You touch a kid, there ain't no place on this earth that somebody ain't gonna find you and try and actually take retribution, especially in a maximum security prison. They got nothing to lose. It's like the stories that you've seen about what happens to any sex offender in prison. I don't see criminal charges coming against Fitzgerald, but this could be something where he could be now thought of along the lines as maybe like a Deshaun Watson. Now Watson, there were no criminal charges filed by the NFL against the NFL quarterback at the Cleveland Browns. However, remember that in the wake of his 26 sexual assault encounters for various things that happened at massage parlors, Watson was actually suspended 11 games by the NFL last year in the wake of a private counsel and independent arbiter, Sue Ann Robinson, a former federal judge, who actually deemed that that Watson was a threat to the well-being of another person with his actions and what was uncovered with that. Now there are a number of different Northwestern coaches who their individual findings with this report were not aware of exactly what occurred, but that does not let Fitzgerald off the hook here whatsoever. When you actually sign a scholarship and you send your kid over to one of these schools, whether they're going to play at the next level and play professionally or not, whether it's the USFL, the NFL, the XFL, wherever it may be, you're expected that the entire program, the university, the coaches, the coaching staff, the training staff, and their teammates would have enough respect to treat them enough as human beings, because at the end of the day, most of these players are not going to be playing professionally, and they're more so there on scholarship to be able to better their education, because let's also be honest, that Northwestern is one of the premier academic schools in the country. Their law school is top notch. They've probably got the best journalism program in the nation. So the irony that this happened on the campus of Northwestern, the acts themselves may not have occurred directly on the campus of Northwestern, but this occurred under their watch, has got to leave a huge stain and bad taste in the hands of the trustees and administration. So there was no other act that could have been done than to terminate Fitzgerald. This goes far and beyond what happened with Bob Huggins at West Virginia that I talked about a couple of weeks on this very blog. But the idea that this is still a topic in 2023 that we're still talking about makes me absolutely sick to my stomach. I've never personally been a victim such as this. I cannot even fathom what some of these players may have experienced, or the humiliation that they may have endured, and what occurred in the immediate aftermath. Nor would I ever want to, because I don't know if I'd actually be mentally kind of strong enough to, uh, to kind of turn around and take charge like that. I'm not that type. I'm not an alpha type personality like that. Um, and if Fitzgerald was thinking that at any point, that these are football players, they're supposed to be tough, so it's something that they could easily kind of shake off. That makes this even worse. So let me know what you guys think. Was firing Fitzgerald the right thing to do? What do you see as the fallout from this? Mike and I will be back with you guys on Friday night. We've got a very special twist to that, but I do not to this week's Wise Guy Sports Show, but I do not feel that I'm going to really expand on that here. If you want a little bit more information, please watch the final few minutes of our broadcast from Saturday night, as that's going to be a very jovial show, and this is more. This is a little bit more serious of a sports note that I've actually done in quite some time. So I will see you guys with Mike on Friday night. Take care.